1. Background. I work at a rather small, 65-room hotel that only staffs a single person on front desk at any given time. We are in a suburb of our state's capital, so anytime there is a major event going on downtown, we tend to get some of the traffic. State basketball is currently taking place, so we have a group block set up for about 4 nights for one of the teams and their coaches, plus numerous other rooms that parents and other family members booked to be with them. While the team booked through the entire tournament, the parents primarily booked only for the first night, with the intention of making additional reservations if their team won their first game and continued on. Their team won, so we had an influx of people booking online and by phone for tonight and Friday night. Situation. I receive a call from a woman who already had a reservation in place for the 2 nights, but wanted to take a night off. No problem. It was well within the 24-hour cancellation policy we have, so I can find her reservation, and I'm about to make the change when I see she booked through an OTA. I simply let her know that she shouldn't have any issues making the change, but she will need to call the OTA in order to make it. No biggie, or so I assumed. Sounding increasingly irritated, she informs me that the girl at the front desk last night changed my reservation no problem. This has been an ongoing issue we are having with the front desk staff at my hotel, due to a mixture of people not paying attention and poor initial training that never emphasized this. I apologized for the confusion, but told her that this had been a mistake, and I was not supposed to be editing any third-party reservations. Again, I just told her to call the OTA and it shouldn't be an issue. This was the end of the phone call, and I assumed the issue had been dealt with. Wrong. I receive a call back from the same woman about 10 minutes later. She immediately takes a very snippy, condescending tone and informs me that she just spoke with the OTA and cancelled her entire reservation. She wants to make sure everything is cancelled in our system, and that she won't be charged by us, sad and disgust, for either of the nights. I confirm everything is cancelled, and she is all set. She reiterates what I said about not being able to edit OTA reservations, and sounds thoroughly irate with me. I truly don't understand why this was worth a temper tantrum. Clearly the OTA was willing to cancel one of the nights if they went ahead and cancelled the entire thing, but a fully grown adult decided that this was worth throwing a temper tantrum about and cancelling everything. Does she think I mourn her loss at all? Like, alright, have fun staying at a separate hotel from the whole other team and other parents, good riddance. I genuinely don't understand people sometimes at all. This didn't need to be an issue, and yet she made it one. It's simply beyond frustrating to deal with such rude people. And I understand that this is part of the job. There are times I'm fully prepared for someone's wrath, but this was not one of those times. 2. Hospitality isn't easy, it isn't pretty, and it isn't glamorous. It's frustrating, mentally draining, and has stressed me to the point of losing hair. But God, do I love my management and my coworkers. But shit, they've all let me down, and nothing showed that more than tonight. I have a story for you. So at 2 a.m., I had a lady come to the front desk and ask to check in, and immediately I'm stressed because currently Synexis is down for maintenance and has been for hours. I had no idea what to do, so I call my fellow night audit worker and she suggests the binder with the room list from today. Well, it's missing. Awesome. So I don't know what rooms are available. I approach the desk once more, honestly not sure what to do, but I ask to see her reservation email so I can at least get her information to confirm the reservation. Y'all, I should have done this first. As most front desks know, if you book a room after midnight online, it'll book you for the following night, not that night. And that's what happened here. Not only that, the reservation is third party. I tell her, sorry ma'am, but you do not have a room until 3 p.m. later today. She begins the usual song and dance of, but I booked it for tonight, they took my money, the email says today, etc., etc. I say, I'm sorry ma'am, but it's not for this night at this time. It's for tonight, after 3 p.m. Now this might be where I totally screwed the pooch, y'all. Keep in mind, my system is still down. I tell her, you can only stay tonight if you make a new reservation for tonight, and that means paying for another night, on top of the 3 days her current third-party reservation had. She gets upset and cuts me off and says fine, then extend it for tonight. I tell her I'm sorry, but I cannot edit a third-party reservation. Hotel rules. She says to just make her a new reservation then. And I know I'm screwed now. Remember, system down, can't take info, payment, nothing. I cannot make reservations. I tell her this. And oh man, she is now livid. Why would you say anything then? You wasted my fucking time, you're not helping me. This is bullshit, you're fucking useless. I can't believe this place. Cancel my reservation. I had to tell her to contact the third party for cancellations because I don't control that. And that made her real mad, cursing, yelling, finally leaves. So I recognize that I handled that very stupidly and poorly. I also feel my training, or lack thereof, really screwed me, because I felt utterly lost in the moment. I didn't know there was supposed to be a binder of the rooms, which is evening's job that they obviously didn't do that night, of all nights, and I was also not informed via the usual means of the maintenance. Usually they have an automated call that comes through, but it didn't this time. Whenever it did give me the call, or I got a heads up from management, I'd have printed the room list off myself. Going forward, definitely printing the room list off immediately. If this situation happens again with a third-party screw-around and a down system, I'm immediately hitting with the "sorry, but it's fucked," instead of talking in such a roundabout way. I'll also be immediately checking the type of reservation right off the bat. I still feel too new, even though I've been doing this job for close to 2 years between 2 locations. I'll be speaking to my manager about perhaps having a retraining session with our senior front desk, and not just with the other night auditor who had never trained before until me, because it obviously didn't do any good. 3. At my first hotel job, back when I was baby-faced and doe-eyed, I was a woman between 23 and 24 at the time, we had this guy who stayed at the hotel when it first opened. He stayed for like 4 months, and this was 2 years before my tenure there. My co-workers told me about him, and he always seemed a little off. He's a doctor, so we'll call him Doctor for this story. So cue him coming in and coming up to me, who is the only one at the front desk at the time. He asks if he can do laundry here. I'm thinking he's a guest, so I go on my typical speech. Oh, of course, it's located X and Y. You would use your key to get in. It takes $1.50 in quarters, takes about an hour per wash and dry. And we do sell detergent and dryer sheets if needed. And he goes, "So can I use it?" I'm very confused and reply with, yes, laundry is available to all guests, just use your key to get in. I need a key. Sure, I go to pull up his reservation, nothing. Is your room under someone else's name, Doctor? I can't find it in the system. I don't have a room, I just need a key for the laundry. Sir? I can't just give you a guest key for the laundry. There is no way for me to program a key just to open laundry, and it's a near sellout weekend. The guests will be using the laundry. He gets upset and doesn't understand why I couldn't just give him a key. I try to explain that it was a safety issue and that no, I could not give him a laundry key or a master key just because he's a super high elite diamond glitter captain member. After a bit of back and forth, he leaves. I naively think this is all over until my coworker, specifically C, who is most importantly a man, and the coworker I was closest to. He gets upset for me and asks if Doctor's car is still in the lot, and I say I don't know. I don't know what car he drives. He tells me not to worry about it, so I don't. Cue an hour and a half later, my housekeeping staff comes up to me, and after some language barrier, she explains that the back door has been propped open. As she's explaining this to me, a guest arrives at the front desk. This lady plops her soaking wet, soapy clothing onto my desk, and says someone has taken her laundry and someone else is out of the machine to run their own. I apologize and tell her we will take care of it right away. I go upstairs. All machines are running on both floors for laundry. There are piles of clothes throwing soaking wet on the floor. Both laundry room doors are propped open. I call my colleague on the radio and tell him what's happening. He hits me back with, "Doctor's car's in the back lot. I just spoke to a housekeeper. He let someone in without a key." Of course. So I bag up all the clothing in every machine, all scrubs or men's tall clothing, all stuff I could see a doctor wearing. Not the soccer moms or pre-teens we had in-house. I take them downstairs. 2 hours later, he comes to the front desk screaming at my coworker. He claims I told him he could use the laundry room. My coworker knows I did not. She tells him such. He demands his clothing back and compensation for calling him a liar and the hassle we have put him through. I come in and say we have his clothing all bagged up, and he had no right to remove other people's stuff from the machines when he is not a guest. He is now full-blown screaming as if we are crazy for not letting him use our laundry facilities. He is being loud and disruptive, so much so that my manager, who is so hands-off, comes into the lobby and demands that he quiet down. "Oh, GM, good. Someone with some common sense. This idiot, me, told me I could do laundry here, and now she's lying and saying she didn't." "If you were not a guest at the hotel, you were not allowed to use our guest laundry, Doctor. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to ask you to leave." "Oh, so the problem is that I'm not paying enough. Fine, I'll just book a room right now." He pulls out his phone and starts trying to book a room. "Sir, you are not going to be able to book a room. We are sold out tonight," I inform him and my GM. "Bullshit." He then starts throwing slurs and curses, and there were a lot. "You always hold extra rooms for super high elite Diamond Glitter Captain members." FYI, we don't, ever. The corporation would rather sell a room to someone random and get the money than hold a room for you. No hotel I have ever worked at will. GM gets him back with, "Doctor, you can either leave on your own or you can leave with the cops. I will not tolerate you insulting my employees like that." Doctor throws his clothing onto the couch in the lobby, stomps his foot, and demands to be treated with respect. He pulls out the typical entitled BS. "Do you know how long I stayed here?" "That was 2 years ago." "Do you know who I am?" "Yes." "Don't you see how many points I have?" "I don't care. You can't do this to me." My GM tells me to call the cops, and I walk away to do it. My male colleague offers to help him with his 6 bags of wet laundry out to his car. The man spits on his shoes and storms off with 2 of his bags. Like 15 minutes later, he comes back around the front and demands to know why my colleague didn't follow him through like he said he would. He told him to kiss his own ass, straight up. GM gave him a cursory "don't curse," but there was no real reprimand. Doctor grabbed the last of his bags and left. Cops showed up, but without him still there, they couldn't do anything. GM issued a direct complaint with the brand and had him blacklisted from our hotel. Turns out he has a habit of getting blacklisted from the brand's hotels, and this was his last strike. He was on probation or whatever for them, and they cancelled his account and told him to never stay at the brand hotel again. It was so vindicating hearing about that. 4. Am I overreacting? I work in a small hotel doing front desk that runs 24/7. Honestly, it's giving motel. And from the day I started, the previous staff, which have all been fired now over the past 2 months, were the sloppiest, most unprofessional workers ever. It was common for people to no call, no show, be multiple hours late, consume drugs on site, sleep in the rooms or in the lobby when they were supposed to be housekeeping, and the majority of them belonged to a sober living program, hence their unpredictable and careless behavior. On multiple occasions, the previous front desk shift would be stuck doing an entire 16-hour shift from no shows. Not to mention, the hotel is very old, so people who spend hundreds because of the location are without hot water, working TVs, and we don't even offer basic amenities like coffee and tea. And management at no point had any consequences for these employees' actions, nor had concerns for renovating and fixing building issues, and has let it ride over the next 2 months up until last month when everyone got fired. I work the night shift no one wants, overnight, and I loved it up until this point because I have 8 hours to read, write, and study on my laptop, as I am studying several programming languages. I have ADHD, so I need to keep my brain stimulated and engaged. So I haven't had any issues ever falling asleep until now. We now consist of a solid, reliable team who shows up and does their job with minor issues, and the best customer service we can offer considering the building issues. As of recently, management is now enforcing a no electronic devices, drawing and writing, or recreational activity policy to keep professional guidelines in place. Where were these rules when you had the previous staff? And how they are worried about professionalism when people are going 3+ days without hot water, amongst other building issues, and we don't give refunds. This has happened in the past week, and I find it to be absolutely ridiculous, considering there's so much downtime during our 8-hour shifts. Seriously, I got 30 minutes of work at most. We're all responsible, and most of us are students who have things to work on. I now find myself dozing off by the last few hours, working the quietest hours of the night on my shift because reading isn't enough for me to keep my brain busy. 95% of the time I see no one out of their rooms until sunrise. I'm trying to find a solution to stick this job out considering the market is absolutely trash, and it's honestly depressing me. Am I overreacting? Do they really expect us to sit here at a desk for 8 hours like a robot? What can I do to turn this around? They're strict on it, and are saying write-ups and consequences will follow. 5. The scenario. I have just clocked in and not even sat down yet, when a man approaches front desk and asks to check in. I say, of course, what's the name on your reservation? He tells me and I pull up the res. May I see a photo ID and a credit card? He hands me his ID. I left my credit card in the car, I'll get it in a second. Sir, I'm going to need to see it in order to check you in. I left it in the car, I'll get it in a second. Sir, in order to check you in, I need to verify your credit card. I told you it's in the car. So I sit there quietly looking at him, as I can't check him in without a credit card, and I'm frankly unsure how to be more clear. Are you just going to sit there and stare at me all night? Sir, I'm waiting for you to go get your credit card so I can check you in. At this, he slams his hands on the counter and says, "You're a fucking pain in my ass." Now, I've worked the night audit shift for close to 2 years at this point, and dealt with a lot of nasty people, Karens, drunks, entitled shiny members, etc. My bosses made sure the front desk staff know that if people raise their voices, swear, threaten, or do anything of that sort, we're allowed to ask them to leave, especially on the night audit shift. So I stand up and calmly place his ID on the desk in front of me. Sir, here's your ID back. I'm going to have to ask you to leave as we don't allow our staff to be spoken to in that manner. He splutters, swears again, and starts to argue with me. I raise my hand. Sir, if you're going to call me a pain in the ass, I'm going to be a pain in the ass. Please leave my lobby. He asks if he can at least have a refund, and I inform him he'll have to talk to the OTA he booked the room with. Since his reservation was prepaid through one. He says that he didn't book the room, his place of employment did. I inform him, in that case, his company will have to call the OTA. Well, what am I supposed to tell them? You tell them you called me a fucking pain in the ass and that I'm not allowing you to stay. At this, he turned and left the lobby. And that's it. I was pretty proud of myself in the moment for getting that one off. I'm not nearly as quick on my feet as some of you folks are. I'm not normally vindictive about this sort of thing either, but I'll admit I was hoping someone on our end would get to explain to his employers what happened and how he treats front desk staff. Somebody needs to know. It's also curious to me that he's unaware of hotel check-in policies if he does travel for work. As far as I'm aware, ID and credit card are needed essentially everywhere. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Coahw, episode 142. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do hit the like button. And if you'd like to get early access to these videos and help the channel out, and help me out because, you know, one and the same, then you can support me on my Patreon page, which is linked in the description. You get the videos there about Monday every week. You can do that for $1 or more a month. You'll also find a link in the description to the Hellfreezer merchandise store on Teespring. And if you really like today's video, you can leave a tip by clicking on the heart with the $sign underneath and selecting the tip of your choice. But you don't have to do that, although I do appreciate it. Okay, and as there's... Nope, don't think we have any more birthday shoutouts. I think the last one was last week or something, the week before. If you do have one, you can send it along to kingofthecities@gmail.com. I'll do my best to get to it as soon as possible. So let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question and answer of the day. And today's question is... Tea towels in your kitchen. Do you have a special drawer for them? Is there a special place on the counter, or do you have somewhere you fold them and hang them up? For my purposes, I have a little drawer next to the refrigerator that isn't used for anything else, so they They get, if I'm in a good mood, they get folded and put in there. If I'm not in a good mood, they just kind of get stuffed in there. Well, that's just me, and feel free to add any other kitchen tips and flourishes you feel like. And before we go, let's have the answer of the day from a previous video. And this was an answer to the question, is jerky a snack or an addition to a meal? I think I said it was more of a snack for me, but let's see what other people may have thought. And today's answer comes from Deeper Things. Historically, jerky was part of a meal, particularly for travelers and hunters, along with any fruit or nuts one might have encountered along the way. It did not require cooking, and so could be enjoyed while still on the move, and without warding off your intended prey. And this behavior goes way back. One of the most important finds in European prehistory was the 1991 discovery of a wet mummy frozen shortly after death in an alpine glacier some 5,300 years ago near Austria and Italy. He is known as Ötzi, or the Iceman, and is touted as the most thoroughly studied human in history. The remains of his last 2 meals were still in his gut and have been painstakingly identified, while his last supper consisted of fresh wild ibex meat, a sort of mountain goat cooked with legumes and tubers, and accompanied by some sort of dry bread made from an ancient form of wheat. His penultimate meal was red deer jerky and wild berries. More remains of the berries were found in the pouch he was carrying and indicate that he died in late August, early September in today's calendar, so historically it's a meal. Today, of course, we are more inclined to treat it as a snack between meals, but come the zombie apocalypse, you would do well to load up on this stuff for quick and quiet meals while on the move. Well, let's be honest, we're going to be the snacks if there's ever a zombie apocalypse. And thank you very much for your answer, Deeper Things. I knew it was going to be a thorough one. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.